NFL fans, welcome back to another episode of the J All Day Show. Today, I want to talk to you about predictions against the spread for Week 6. We did a little bit better versus the spread last week, 7-6-1. Those 49ers and the Seahawks killed me last week, man. They knocked me out of Survivor. Those two teams losing at home was one of the craziest endings to games I've ever seen. 49ers blowing a big lead. And then the Seahawks had a chance to come back, tie the game up. Giants blocked the kick. OMG. All right, let's get into these Week 6 games. A lot of exciting games, but there's a lot of injuries starting to pile up across the league. So I want to talk to you about who I think wins with or against the spread, as well as kind of fill you in on some injury updates for Week 6. All right, we're going to kick off this week with the Thursday night game that happens tonight. 49ers at the Seahawks. The injuries are starting to pile up again for the 49ers, especially on defense. Hufanga, the safety, he's on IR. Jordan Elliott, the D tackle, he's out. And Flanagan Falls, the linebacker, he's out. The 49ers are also dealing with a kicking issue. Jake Moody's hurt. We don't know when he's coming back. Apparently they had 4 kickers in San Francisco over the last couple of days, but they still have no idea who the kicker is going to be. It hasn't been announced yet. I don't know what's going to happen. Who's the kicker? I don't know. But that's a little bit concerning. It's going to force the 49ers to go for a lot of fourth and shorts, probably in the positive zone, right? So we'll see what happens. The Seahawks, the defensive line is looking a little thin right now. Woolen, Nwosu, and Byron Murphy all out. Also, Mafe, Hall, Love, all questionable. I think they're all going to play, but this defense overall is pretty banged up, right? The offensive line is not very good. They're on their 300th right tackle at this point in the season. I think the 49ers win and cover the 3.5 points. Next, we move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Chicago Bears. Remember, this game is in London, so no home field advantage for any of these teams. The Jacksonville Jaguars offense is a little bit banged up. NTN Jr., Ingram, and Gabe Davis all questionable going into this game. Trevor Lawrence had a big victory last week against a terrible Colts team. They finally got their first dub, but the Bears are playing very good complementary football. They're going into this game pretty healthy, and Caleb Williams is finally starting to get some chemistry with Adunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and they're starting to get DeAndre Swift a little more involved. I thought earlier in the season Swift would be more involved, especially because they paid him so much money, right? I think the Bears cover this 1.5 points for sure. All right, next up, Cleveland Browns at the Philadelphia Eagles. Remember, the Philadelphia Eagles are coming off a bye. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Lane Johnson, they are all back for this game, right? The Cleveland Browns have lost 3 games in a row. Not to really good teams either, guys. Listen, New York Giants, Raiders, Washington. Not necessarily murderer's row, right? And then I was looking through the depth chart today. 13 different players are questionable going into Sunday's game. I expect at least half of them to play. But having 13 guys, starters, questionable on offense and defense going into this game against an Eagles team at home, coming off a bye, doesn't look great for the Cleveland Browns. But 9.5 points is a big spread, right? I think the Cleveland Browns probably cover this spread, but yeah, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to cover the 9.5 points. I still think the Philadelphia Eagles win, but these big point spreads have not really been successful, right? Teams covering the big point spread. You know what I mean? So I think the Cleveland Browns can cover the 9.5 points. It was down to 8.5, 9, 9.5. It's been bouncing around all week, but I think the Cleveland Browns can cover the 9.5 points, but the Birds should definitely win this game. I'm hoping they cover the spread, but I'm going with what's been going on this year so far. Commanders, Ravens. In the beginning of the week, this line was at plus 7.5 for the Commanders. It went down to plus 6.5. Now it's back up to plus 7. So I like the Commanders and 7 points. I think this is going to be a shootout game. This total I wish it was at 50. I would be definitely betting the over. We'll have to see. I might still consider betting the over on this. I think this is going to be a 27, 24, 30, 27, 31, 27 type of game either direction, right? I think that's the bet, probably the over in this, because both of these defenses have underperformed, right? I know Ravens fans are going to kill me for saying this. They've been eviscerating me in the comments, but like, you're being so disrespectful to Lamar Jackson. I mean, they've been playing pretty good the last couple weeks, but you got to remember, the Ravens beat a horrendous Bengals defense, like one of the worst, and they almost lost that game, right? So that just goes to show you that this Ravens defense is not the same defense as years past. That's why I'm going with the Commanders to cover the 7 points. I think this is a close game, probably a shootout. Texans versus the New England Patriots, guys. Just look at these injuries for the Texans. Nico Collins, the best wide receiver in the NFL through the first 5 weeks. They just put him on IR. He's going to miss the next 4 games. That's extremely concerning for me. But luckily, they still have Tank Dell, and they also have Stephon Diggs. So we'll see if they can step up and replace that production from Nico Collins, right? And then the offensive line, 3 guys are questionable. Both tackles, Tunsil and Howard, and left guard Green. Cornerback Lassiter, middle linebacker, is also questionable. Okay, for this offensive line, they're underachieving right now. Tunsil, 64.9 grade. Howard, a 69 grade. Green, the left guard, extremely underperforming with a 46.2 grade, right? This offensive line is not very good. But the Patriots fans got to be excited for this, right? Drake May is getting the start for the Patriots. His first start of his young NFL career. I'm really excited to see how he looks in this game. But the Texans defense is pretty good. They're not a great defense. They're not an elite defense, but they're above a mediocre defense, right? This Texans team in general is super heavily penalized, right? But I think a rookie with a not so good offensive line, I think the Texans can cover the 6.5 points. I don't necessarily love big point spreads, especially this year for whatever reason. And the offensive line is definitely a little bit banged up. But CJ Stroud, I think, will be okay. No Nico Collins. If the Patriots weren't so bad offensively, I would take the Patriots and the 6.5 points. But I think this line should be more like 9. So I'm going to go with the Texans to cover the 6.5 points. Next up, we have the Cardinals traveling to Green Bay, back-to-back road games for the Arizona Cardinals. Definitely not an ideal situation. The Green Bay Packers defense leads the NFL in turnovers, but they are very beatable through the air and on the ground. But they've been coming up with a lot of timely turnovers that have kept this team in games. So, where am I going for this game? Another injury that we have to really keep our eye on as we get closer and closer to game time is Jair Alexander, the cornerback for the Packers, going to play. He's been limited so far this week in practice, but if he plays, I really like the Packers to cover the 5 points. But if he's out, I'm probably going to go with Arizona. They need that true number 1 cornerback because this defense has not been great against the pass. They're in the bottom 10 rankings of teams against the pass, right? So they need to get Alexander back and healthy and playing at an elite level, right? So if that's the case, for now, especially because the Cardinals are back-to-back road games, they played a really tough game last week. I think the Packers cover the 5 points. Now we move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. Spencer Rattler is going to be the quarterback for the Saints. He's a rookie. Derek Carr, oblique injury. He's probably going to miss 3 or 4 weeks, guys. Unfortunately for Saints fans. I like the Buccaneers to cover the 3 points. Luke Goedeke, the right tackle for the Buccaneers, looks like he's going to play. They really, really missed him over the last few weeks. School, I think his name was the backup, and he was awful, man. He was getting his lunch eaten every single game. He looked really, really bad. And the Buccaneers are also coming off a mini bye, playing last Thursday. So they're coming in well rested. I'm not sure if Winfield's going to play. I think he was like a limited guy in practice this week, so we'll have to keep our eye on that. But also, for the Saints, Kamara and Raheed Shaheed, the wide receiver, are questionable. And then they have two guys that are questionable on the offensive line, the center and the right guard. And remember, they're already dealing with backups at the right tackle position because Ryan Ramczyk is missing the entire year. So I think at minus 166 and minus 3, I think the Buccaneers are a great bet. I like for them to cover the point spread. Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans. A battle of two not very good teams, right? It looks like Richardson is going to play. But he's been pretty awful this year, guys. He's only completing 50% of his passes, 3 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He's got skills, but he's very inaccurate with the football, clearly by the 50% completion percentage so far this year. He just throws the ball too hard. It's hard for his receivers to catch it because he puts so much into it. He throws like a 400-mile-an-hour fastball. A little finesse and a little touch will go a long way, Anthony Richardson. So that concerns me a little bit. But the Titans defense that was playing pretty good is a little banged up. Jeffrey Simmons is still questionable. Jamal Adams is kind of coming in like off the bench kind of a situation. He's questionable as well. The offense looks pretty healthy. And then Awuzie, the big free agent signing coming over from the Bengals, he's out as well. I'm just going with the team with the points. I'm taking the Colts and the points here. This is a 50-50 game in my opinion. I think it should be a pick 'em. The Colts getting 3 points. I got to go with the Colts getting 3 points, especially if Jeffrey Simmons, one of the better D tackles in the NFL, doesn't play. So I'm taking the Colts and the 3 points. Let's move on to this Pittsburgh Steelers-Raiders game. All right. Justin Fields, the numbers look okay box score-wise, but he does not pass the eye test at all whatsoever. 3 for 12 on third down last week. That's why they lost against the Cowboys. He was very inefficient with the football. And when it counts, he can dink and dunk on first and second down to make his stats look padded at the end of the game. But when they need him to be successful on third downs, he's absolutely terrible. 3 for 12. Horrible. Highsmith, the opposite of TJ Watt. He's also out of this game, which I don't necessarily love. I just don't think Justin Fields is a starting quarterback in the NFL. He can't get it done on third down, and those are the downs you need to be good on if you want to win big, tough games. Now we move on to the Raiders. It looks like Gardner Minshew is going to the bench. Aiden O'Connell will be the starting quarterback. 3 offensive linemen that are starting are questionable, along with Myers and Adams, the wide receivers. To me, Max Crosby does have 5 sacks, which is in the top of the NFL, but he doesn't look 100%. He's been questionable a lot of the last few weeks. He's kind of been very limited in practice. I think he's playing through an injury. And Christian Wilkins, I think, is also out for the Raiders, right? So that's a big loss, right? Let me double check that for you guys. I thought I wrote it down somewhere about Christian Wilkins. I think they put him on IR, guys. So here we go. Yeah, Christian Wilkins is on IR. He's a big part of that defensive line, right? And Max Crosby and him were a great pair, but now it's only Crosby, and I don't know if he's 100%. I think, oh, man, this is tough. I guess I'm going to go with the Steelers and the minus 3 points. Their defense was pretty good, even though they didn't look great last week. You know what? I'm flipping it. I'm going with the Raiders at home and the plus 3 points. I'm flipping it. I didn't like what I saw out of that defense against the backups for the Cowboys. The backup wide receivers, because Cooks is on IR, and they were running the ball pretty effectively against this defense as well. Highsmith is a big loss. I'm going with the Raiders and the plus 3 points. O'Connell has a decent game. Chargers at the Broncos. This is a really exciting game, but remember, the Chargers are coming off a bye. They're 2.5-point favorites. This was up to 3 and 3.5 earlier in the week. So the line has come down a little bit, right? So Joey Bosa didn't practice again. He just can't stay healthy at all whatsoever. 6 starters on their defense are questionable for the Chargers going into this week coming off a bye. That's never a good thing, right? But I'm expecting the majority of them to play, especially with coming off the bye, right? The Denver Broncos defense looks really, really good. And Bo Nix is doing a better job of making third downs, completing first downs, being efficient with the football, not turning the ball over, right? But on the flip side, the center and right tackle for the Denver Broncos are questionable going into this game. I think the over-under line is right where it needs to be. I'm going to go with the Broncos in the 2.5 points. I just like the way the Broncos are playing right now, and I don't know if the Chargers are going to score enough points to cover the 2.5. So I'm taking the Broncos at home, getting points, 2.5 points. Detroit Lions at the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, the Lions are coming off a bye. They're looking pretty much 100% healthy, minus the players that are on IR and all that stuff. They're as healthy as they're going to get right now coming off this bye. Dallas, on the other hand, they just put rookie Marshawn Nealon, the edge rusher, on IR. DeMarcus Lawrence is already on IR. Micah Parsons did not practice on Wednesday, so it doesn't look like he's going to play on Sunday, and if he is, he's definitely not going to be 100%. But they had a couple guys step up, Tolbert and Turpin, the wide receivers, 7 for 87 and 4 for 50 in place of Cooks, who's on IR. So that's great. And they ran the ball a little bit more effectively. But I expect Aiden Hutchinson to eat against this young Dallas Cowboys offensive line. I think the Lions cover the 3 points. Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, just a slew of injuries. Shaq Thompson, Derek Brown, the heart and soul of that defense, they're done for the year, right? So, and then they're also dealing with some offensive line injuries. So I think that the Falcons cover the 6 points. It's a big spread, especially on the road, but the Falcons and Mooney and London, they're starting to click a little bit. I really think that Bijan Robinson's going to get a lot more involvement in the offense this week. They got to get him going. They got to get Bijan more rushing touches and not just dropping the ball up to him in the flat. Let him run the ball in between the tackles. Some zone rushes outside. I like the Falcons to cover the 6 points. Kirk Cousins looks really good, man. A lot of gritty, tough, come-from-behind victories for Kirk Cousins, and he's only going to get more and more comfortable in this offense as the year goes on. They dominate and cover the 6 points. Next up, everyone, we got the Sunday Night Football game, Bengals at the Giants. The Bengals offense is scoring a ton of points and looking really good, but their defense is giving up a ton of points and looks really bad. So, I love what Tyrone Tracy did for the Giants last week. He looks like the real deal at the running back position. I look for him to keep taking carries away from Singletary, who was hurt last week. It looks like he was limited in practice in the middle of the week, so he's probably leaning towards playing. It does not look like Malik Neighbors is playing. Coach Brian Daboll said he made no progress between Wednesday and Thursday getting through the concussion protocol, right? So no Neighbors again. I think the Bengals win this game, and I think they cover the 3.5 points. I wish it was 3 points and not 3.5. But the Giants are going to give up a lot of points. But the only thing that concerns me is the offensive line of the Bengals. Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns have been wreaking havoc. Dexter Lawrence was amazing last week. He really, really ruined that game for the Seahawks and their offensive line, right? So you know what? Oh, God, I'm flipping it. I'm flipping again. I'm flipping, guys. The more I think about it, I'm going with the Giants to cover the 3.5 points. That D-line is really good. If you can get in Joe Burrow's face and disrupt some of his timing, I think this game will be pretty close. I'm going with the Giants to cover the 3.5 points. And then we have one of the most interesting games of the week, Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, Monday Night Football. Robert Saleh, the head coach of the Jets, was fired earlier in the week. Much to my chagrin, I think that was a really stupid-ass thing to do. Aaron Rodgers causes controversy wherever he goes. Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, lost his play calling ability this week. So a lot of changes for the Jets. But in Buffalo, Khalil Shakir still not practicing. Ed Oliver still not practicing. I'm going with the Jets to cover the 2.5 points. A lot of these times when coaches get fired, players take it personally. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have something to prove this week, especially after his horrible performance last week. I think Aaron Rodgers comes out and has one of his better games as a New York Jet in this game. Morgan Moses, the right tackle for the Jets, looks like he's in line to come back from injury and play this week. That's huge for Aaron Rodgers. The Jets cover the 2.5 points, guys. If you want to see all my bets each and every week, make sure you join my memberships. It's only $4.99 a month, and I give you my whole sports book every single Friday. A lot of members-only content. So my bets, especially my money line bets this year, have been doing really, really well. So if you want to get access to all my bets, all my secret bets where I send out the shorts to my members, make sure you join the memberships. All right. If you just like this content and when you want to support the channel, just hit that like button and subscribe. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.